Have you seen those comparisons on like Instagram where it has a picture of Instagram and it looks like a family who's all happy and wonderful and, blue skies and butterflies and they're smiling at the camera and dressed perfectly versus reality, and the picture right next to it is kids are fighting, pulling each other's hair. The mom looks like she needs a drink. The dad's yelling at the kids, just like the reality of family life. And I feel like so many people do that is they look at social media and they think, oh, that's the way I want it to be and that's what it's supposed to be. Have you ever thought about your leadership Instagram versus reality? Stay tuned. Let's talk about it.
Hi, I'm Carlin Holbrook. I'm a John Maxwell Team certified coach, teacher, trainer, speaker, published author, and influencer with more than 25 years of global leadership experience. If there's one thing I've seen firsthand time and time again, it's that the best leaders inspire others to follow their purpose and their passions, while the influence of a bad leader can literally tear down people's potential. Join me for a few sips of leadership tips that will help you become a better leader by first conquering the hardest person to lead, you.
All right, sipping on some French roast and ready to sip on this idea of what we thought leadership would look like versus what leadership actually is. And I hear this from a lot of people. This was kind of inspired by conversations I've had with a friend of mine recently who was just struggling with some tough people to lead on their team. And it is kind of interesting, for first-time leaders, especially first-time leaders of leaders, in a professional setting, what a wake-up call it is as to, oh my gosh, I just thought my Instagram version of leadership would have been, picture it for yourself. If you close your eyes and you think about what's my Instagram leadership look like. Maybe it's a whole bunch of, all your teammates gathered around, all hands in, 1, 2, 3 team, or everybody around the conference room table laughing. Or maybe you're out and about or at a coffee shop or experiencing something together, doing some team building, having a good old time. Got your arms around each other, you're high-fiving each other, yeah, we're the best team ever. We all have each other's backs, we all like each other. It's great. Wow, I love that Instagram version. That is truly what we strive for as leaders, right? Is to rally the team and to ensure that people are getting along and, really leading people into good character and character building and team building, etc. But does reality look a little bit more like this? Okay, close your eyes again and maybe think about either your experience as a leader or somebody else's experience that you've witnessed. And, excuse me, maybe it's more like you have two people on your team that just don't get along, so they never see eye to eye. You're sitting around that same conference room table, but people have their arms crossed, they're rolling their eyes at what someone else is saying. You have somebody who just doesn't show up to work. You don't know where the heck they are. They sometimes come in the office, they sometimes don't, and they always have a good excuse, right? The dog ate my homework kind of guy or girl. People not trusting each other, people not trusting you. Is that a little bit more of a sign of reality? Opinions around the table, everyone disagreeing, but in not a healthy way, in kind of an angry way. Some people pull like a group project in college. Some people are like your top performers, your high performers, but you find yourself focused on the low performers and the people who just aren't quite getting it and not motivated, not pulling their weight. So the high performers are getting frustrated because they're the ones keeping everything moving and getting exhausted and burned out. It's not a good reality, right, for leaders? But I think more often than not, at least in my experience, you have more of the reality versus the Instagram version of a team. And I will tell you why. It's this really ancient secret, so lean in to hear this one. Everybody is uniquely different. People are messy and they're complicated and they have thoughts and emotions and bias and beliefs and limiting beliefs and baggage and experience and not experience. And people are messy. People are messy. And I don't say that in a judgy way. I say that in a That's reality. We all are messy. But that's what is so beautiful about having a diverse team of people too, and different people bringing things to your team from different walks of life. And I don't mean diversity just in the different colors of skin. I mean diversity in thought, diversity in backgrounds, diversity in age, diversity in belief. I mean, all of it. Iron sharpens iron, and that helps us to become better people if we come together and are able to manage our differing opinions and our different realities well. So in the Instagram versus reality, the reality, yeah, it's definitely tough and messy, but that's why leadership is so critical and so important, because it's your job as a leader to bring that team together, to give everybody a vision, a mission, and something they can all get on board with. Even the low performers or people that you feel like, gosh, they're never going to get it or listen to me, don't throw them away. Like, deal with it head on and give your team agreements and values so you're all on the same page together. It is so, so, so critical. I was reading, and John Maxwell has a leadership kind of like daily tips and devotional type of thing. And I was reading that leaders who erode the solid ground of trustworthy leadership usually exhibit one or more of the following signs. Leaders in trouble, number one, fail to address glaring character weaknesses. Now, how often do we do that? And character weaknesses do occur. People who don't have integrity, people who are dishonest. I know I had someone on my team once who I swear was a pathological liar, just lied about the stupidest things and the most ridiculous things. But that constantly eroded the trust of his teammates as well as of me. But you have to address that head on. And it's not right to let that go. It's not good for them as an individual, because you need to help as a leader. You're taking that oath to help people be the best versions of themselves. And so you need to address those head on. Number two, leaders in trouble count on deception to safeguard themselves. Gosh, how rampant is that in companies and organizations, where they're quick to blame, quick to throw other people under the bus, quick to point fingers, and often too, lie, or, oh, I didn't do that, or that's not what that person said, just to save their own butts, to see why themselves. That's not leadership. Leaders in trouble act impulsively. So impulsively, now make no mistake, this doesn't mean you're not a quick decision maker, because quick decision making is a critical part of leadership, and you'll get better and better at that the more you get confident in your abilities to make decisions, weigh things quickly, and be able to move things on. But acting impulsively is more of the emotional. It's kind of like, go back to one of my other podcasts where we talk about responding versus reacting. Impulsiveness is just reacting, and oftentimes those aren't thoughtful actions, and they can lead to harm, not help. All right, number 4, leaders in trouble are overcome by an area of weakness. So, hey, we all have weaknesses. We all have things that we're just not the greatest at. And I'm a big believer, I know I've talked about this a lot on my podcast, in strength finder kind of approach, where focusing on your strengths and making them stronger. However, there are things in our lives that we do need to address as weaknesses. And I like the way Maxwell talks about them as capacity caps. So it's not as so much like you're so weak here. It's you have a capacity to get better. You have a capacity to grow in a certain space. Like for me, I don't think I'll ever have the capacity to be a WNBA player or a mathematician. However, I do have the capacity to control my own thoughts and to get better about not spiraling, in my own what if head, or something like that. We all have our areas that we can lift those capacity caps on. And then finally, leaders in trouble misuse their God-given gifts. So leaders in trouble don't know what their gifts are. They're not focused on where they can really bring a part of themselves to help the team. They try to be somebody else. Or just don't even know what their strengths are, or keep focused on themselves. If they're self-centered, leaders who are self-centered, undisciplined, and arrogant are completely ineffective leaders. truthfully, I mean, a leader can delegate anything except responsibility. So this is where I say, let's go back to our Instagram versus reality. People don't realize when they sign up for leadership because they're so focused on getting promoted. They're so focused on that title, that paycheck, more money. And they don't realize truly the more you are promoted, the more people in your charge, the less it's about you. It's not about you anymore. It's about how is your team doing, about how the people who you're responsible for. And so you can't delegate away responsibility. You can delegate tasks 100%. You can delegate projects, but not responsibility. And that you can model it, teach it, share it. But truly the buck stops with you. And in the time of crisis and adversity is where you find the best leaders. And that to me is a whole nother Instagram versus reality, right? Is when reality hits, when times of like adversity, like what we went through with COVID, or times of layoffs, or, business crises, or could be a number of things. There's 4 kinds of leaders that we find in the quality of the leadership that Maxwell talks about. Number 1, dropouts give up and fail to take responsibility. So this is leaders I'm just washing my hands of the whole situation and I'm not going to step up and take responsibility. It's not a leader. 2, cop-outs make excuses for why they aren't responsible. It's a little bit back to our blame game example that we were talking about earlier. Number 3, holdouts waver too long to take responsibility. This is one of my personal favorites is, somebody sends an email, asks somebody to do something, and everyone sort of sits and waits for the other person to take it, or the other person to jump in, or someone else to do it. And sometimes it's like your thinking is not wrong and that you don't have to say yes to everything and do everything, but then be bold and just say, hey, person over there on the email chain, can you and your team take this on? Like, just be bold about it. Don't be passive aggressive about it. And number 4, all outs. Own the responsibility and take action. So you don't want to be a dropout, a cop-out, a holdout. We want and leaders need to be an all-out, somebody who owns the responsibility for their team and takes action. It's so important that we really recognize before you ever become a leader of people of what that really means, what that reality really looks like. And the things that happen on a team that you're going to be responsible for. And more often than not, at least in most organizations and companies I know, even teachers, it's like you have your own projects to do, plus you have the charge of other people. And it's critical that you realize that once you are in those roles, it's no more about being an independent contributor. Your team has to come first, and the people in your charge have to come first. That is reality, as messy as it possibly can be. And you can't just go and hide in a corner or hope it goes away or ignore the low performer. That is the worst thing you could do. Somebody who's not pulling their weight for them and for the team and for the business. It's not easy. It's messy to have those tough conversations, but you're truly doing them a service by being honest with them and talking to them about their future, their current state, what they're doing, not doing, what their future looks like in a very direct way that they're going to understand. Always in a loving, caring way. But I believe wholeheartedly the number one reality of leadership is it's about tough love. And it's about being very honest and direct with somebody. And it doesn't mean it feels good. It's not about feelings. Like, feelings are just emotions. It's about taking actions to serve the other people. And I know I've said this on my podcast before, but I'll say it again. Serving people is not the same as pleasing people. And that is like rule number 1, in my opinion, with leadership. The reality of it is serving others, serving the business, serving the people that you are in your charge doesn't mean you're pleasing them and making them happy. And, as long as they're happy, it's good. Because that's, again, not the reality. All right, let's get into some sips. All right, first sip. Get good at addressing issues. And by addressing issues, I mean get good at having direct, honest, thoughtful, caring conversations with people. Whether you are a leader now or you aspire to be a leader, That is such a critical thing you have to be good at. And it only comes with experience. Because remember, everyone's different, every human's different, and you do have to individually and situationally lead through different situations. But the fundamental core of that skill is the same across the board. So get good at it now and be comfortable with that. All right, second tip. Don't value talent over character. I'm going to say it again. Don't value talent over character. Talent, skills, somebody who, wow, they are so good at that, but man, they're such a jerk and they're not a team player. And they take credit for other people's work, but they drive those business outcomes and they're good at that. Will break a team. That will break relationship. That will break everybody. Never ever value that. Work with that person. Point out those issues. Build character in your people regardless. And skills can be learned. Skills can be taught. Functionally, yes, people are at different levels, but character is something that leaders, you need to focus on and refine, because that is what builds high-performing teams. All right, third sip. Stop comparing yourself to other leaders. It's okay. In fact, I encourage you to find good leader mentors out there, and especially if you're a newer leader, and talk to them and seek guidance and wise counsel of good leaders who know that it's about serving others and not, stepping on people's backs and toes, all that. But you've got to stop comparing yourself. You have to find your own leadership voice and your own leadership style. That's authentically you. And otherwise, if you're going to try to emulate what other people are doing or try to be like that person over there or the person you read in a book, etc., it's going to come across as fake. You have to lead from the heart, and the head informs the heart about, what the actions are to take, but you have to lead from the heart first. And that's inherently who you are, and bring that into your leadership. And so what if it's different from what other people do, or quirky, or you think, oh gosh, this is silly, or oh, I couldn't imagine that person doing this. But I shut those voices out every time. And I do a lot of silly, quirky things for my team because that's who I am. And I want to do that. And it's okay. Like, if people don't see it for what it is, which is just bringing your whole self into, a conversation or to the team or the dynamic, then that's okay. But being confident, comfortable in who you are is also going to role model that for your team as well. To be, it's okay to not be like everybody else. It's okay that we're all different and, have different ways of approaching things. It's a very, very good thing. And comparison only leads to suffering, because if you keep comparing yourself to everyone out there, also you're only getting their Instagram version of it. You're never getting their reality, because you can never walk a mile in that person's shoes every single day and every minute of every day. So stop comparing yourself to the Instagram version of leaders that you're seeing around you. Leadership, what people don't tell you is leadership really does have a cost when you become a leader of people. And something that frustrates me to no end is when leaders don't make leadership a valued part of what they're reviewed on, or what their performance summary or their raises and bonuses are dependent on. I'll never, ever understand that, because leading people in any type of situation, organizationally, academia, it doesn't matter, is so critical to get right, because literally everything rises and falls on leadership. Your business outcomes, your achieving your business goals or objectives, the turnover of your organization, the happiness and satisfaction of your employees, it all goes back to leadership. Not money, not benefits, not any of those things. It all goes back to, are they feeling valued? Are they feeling appreciated? Do they feel accomplished every day? Do they feel like they're working in their strengths and in their capabilities? Are they excited to come to work every day because they know they're going to have that Instagram version of high-fiving and all-in hands team and having a good time together? People take complete for granted of how critical this is. And then they wonder why people leave. They wonder why people don't produce. They wonder why people get burned out. It's like, stop wondering. It's your leadership. It's 100% bottom line, your leadership. And lack of leadership comes at a severe cost to the people, to the organization. And in order to be committed to this, it's not a feeling to like, oh, I feel committed. No, it's an action. It's to be committed. Like love. Love is not a feeling. It's a choice. You have to choose to be committed to being a leader, and then valuing leadership is part of what people are doing every day. I mean, it really doesn't matter at the end of the day how much money you're making and how the organization, the shareholders are happy, or whatever organization you're in, and however your organization or company deems, success. If your people are not there, if they're not strong character, working together, motivated to drive the business, drive the missions, drive the goals together in a way that's like fun and encouraging and accomplishment feeling and driven, doesn't matter. None of the rest matters. We're always focused on the wrong thing, and then we wonder why it doesn't work. One of my favorite proverbs, I think is really relevant to this, is a thick bankroll is no help when life falls apart, but a principled life can stand up to the worst. And it's so true. And a principled life is a life of leadership, leading yourself and leading others, and really striving to make Instagram reality. Thank you for having a cup of coffee with me. For more sips and tips, connect with me on social and follow Leader Sips on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Pinterest. And don't forget to visit my website, carlinholbrook.com. Until next time, keep on brewing.